It happened in Asheville, North Carolina, a town tucked into the Blue Ridge Mountains where the air smells like pine and the sunsets bleed gold across the hills. I'd moved there for graduate school, hoping to escape the rigid expectations of my conservative upbringing in rural Indiana. Asheville felt freer, more open, but the weight I carried didn't disappear. It just hid better. I met Caleb in a seminar on ethics and philosophy. He was sharp, funny, and had this quiet intensity that made you lean in when he spoke. We bonded over late-night study sessions, shared playlists, and long drives through winding mountain roads. He never pushed, never assumed, and that made me want him even more. But I had rules drilled into me since I was 13. Sex before marriage was a sin, a stain, something you couldn't wash off no matter how many prayers you whispered. I believed that, or at least I thought I did. It was late October, the leaves had turned, and the air had that crisp bite that makes you crave warmth. Caleb invited me over to watch a documentary, but we never made it past the opening credits. One moment we were laughing, and the next, his hand brushed mine in a way that felt electric. I remember the silence, the weight stretched between us like a held breath. I could have stopped it. I should have, but I didn't. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't careless. It was slow, deliberate, and filled with a tenderness that made my chest ache. But when it was over, and I lay there staring at the ceiling fan spinning above us, the guilt came crashing in. I didn't sleep that night. Caleb curled beside me, peaceful, unaware of the storm raging inside me. I slipped out of bed and sat on the porch, wrapped in his hoodie, trying to breathe. I felt like I betrayed myself, my family, my faith. I skipped church the next morning. I ignored my mother's texts. I couldn't bear to hear her voice, knowing what I'd done. I started avoiding Caleb too. Not because he'd hurt me, but because being near him reminded me of the moments I crossed the line I swore I never would. I became paranoid. Was I pregnant? Could I ruin my future? Would God ever forgive me? I started journaling obsessively, trying to make sense of the chaos in my head. I wrote things like, I feel hollow and I don't know who I am anymore. I stopped eating, stopped laughing, stopped living. One night, Caleb showed up at my apartment unannounced. He looked worried. I hadn't returned his calls in days. I let him in, but I couldn't look at him. I need to tell you something, I said, voice shaking. I feel disgusting. I feel like I've ruined everything. He didn't flinch. He didn't interrupt. He just sat with me quietly until I finished unraveling. Then he said, "You didn't ruin anything. You're not broken. You're human, and you're allowed to change your mind." I cried harder than I ever had. It took months, therapy, honest conversations, rebuilding my sense of self. I had to confront the fact that my guilt wasn't just about sex. It was about control, about fear, about the belief that my worth was tied to purity. I started redefining my values, not abandoning them, but reshaping them to fit the person I was becoming. I learned that guilt can be a teacher, but shame is a prison, and I chose to walk out of it. Caleb and I didn't last, but he was part of my healing, a mirror that showed me both my pain and my strength. Now, when I look back on that night in Asheville, I don't see sin. I see a turning point, a moment that cracked me open so I could finally breathe.